Okay, time for a new video. Welcome back to my channel, or hello if you're new. This is yet another Eurovision related video here on my channel, and today I'm going to be talking about the songs that have opened and closed the semi-finals at the Eurovision Song Contest over the past few years, going back to Rotterdam in 2021, right up to the two semi-finals that will take place next month in Basel, Switzerland. As always, you're welcome to let me know your thoughts on anything I discuss in today's video by leaving a comment down below, and as always, there are links in the description to my other social media pages. Check them out if you so wish. I believe I might have filmed a video similar to this one in the past. If that is the case, then please do consider this video you're watching now to be the more up-to-date version. I should also take this opportunity to say that I have every intention of filming several more videos before April is over regarding Eurovision, including a 10 great national final songs of the season video, a video regarding the favourites to win this year's competition, a video regarding the dark horses, in my opinion, of this year's competition, a video regarding my personal ranking of the songs of this year's edition, as well as one or two other bits and pieces as well. And hopefully they will all surface within the next couple of weeks, including another video that I just forgot about, why blank should win Eurovision 2025. There may be one or two various versions of that video. I'm working on them behind the scenes. Anyway, today I am focusing on those songs that have opened and closed the semi-finals at Eurovision over the past couple of years, and indeed working out which one is my favourite opener and which one is my favourite closer, and you're very welcome to let me know your thoughts on this as we go along. So, going back to 2021, opening the first semi-final that year in Rotterdam. Obviously Eurovision had not taken place the year before, and a lot of the artists who were chosen, whether that's through a national final or internally for the 2020 competition, came back in 2021, and one such example is here with Lithuania. This was The Roop with Discotheque, a three-piece all-male group. They've been together for a number of years. Vaidotas, Robertas and Mantas. They've released 3 albums, various singles. They were the opening act for Ed Sheeran when he performed in Lithuania last year. And this song, I've always preferred it over their 2020 effort, which is perfectly fine. But this one, I've just always enjoyed it a bit more. It's quirky and cool and maybe a little bit bizarre, but not necessarily in a bad way. Somewhat unconventional, I think it's fair to say. There they were on stage in their yellow outfits, dancing, having a blast. Even the choreography was quite quirky, and we had lots of purple lighting, and it looked like a chessboard at one point, and then towards the end of the performance the lead singer was sort of holding the camera and moving it along himself. It was just really enjoyable, and thinking about this track now, I suppose the first time you hear it, like a lot of people, that would have been the case at Eurovision back in 2021. A lot of first-time listeners will have been checking this out. They might have found it a little bit too hard to go along with, maybe, a little bit disjointed, if you see what I mean. But actually, even though it might feel that way, it still comes together very nicely somehow, as if the bits and pieces of this song have been stitched together in a way that makes it really enjoyable. It goes along at a good pace. I've always enjoyed it. 4th in semi-final 1 with 203 points, and then in the final, 8th with 220 points. And I should say, this is my favourite Lithuanian entry to date. Closing semi-final 1 in Rotterdam was Destiny, a former junior Eurovision winner, for Malta with Je me casse, and this was one of the big favourites to win the whole contest back in 2021, and this won the first semi-final in Rotterdam with 325 points. This was staged in an extremely simple manner. There was that sort of light-up bar on stage. She had dancers who were in these very bright pink outfits, if I remember correctly, and you had Destiny there in this shimmering silver dress, belting this tune out, an absolutely fantastic vocalist, and there wasn't really much else to it, unfortunately. The music video was quite cool and interesting, but you can't vote on that. And it felt to me as though at Eurovision they deliberately kept things very simple, which is great, but I do believe this needed a little bit more to make it truly stand out from the field. In the final, the juries were all over this, ranking it very highly, but the public just weren't that keen, putting Malta in 14th place, which is rather disappointing, with 47 points. Nevertheless, it's one of Malta's best results over the past 10 years or so, 7th place with 255 points. I think the strength of this song, of this performance in Rotterdam, was Destiny, because she was really going for it. She was singing the hell out of it. She was having a great time. It's a very sassy, sort of modern, jazzy pop type song, and she was clearly having a good time, as were her dancers. I just think where this song maybe fell short for me, and maybe a lot of other people as well, is how there just wasn't that little extra something about the live showing to make people really want to vote for this in big numbers. Never mind. Anyway, moving on to semi-final 2 in Rotterdam. The opening song was San Marino, a great song to get things going. This closed the final as well. Senate and Flow Rider with Adrenalina. Now, this went through in 9th place with 118 points. Now, it's a success in the sense that San Marino don't often make the final. So them going through with this song was great to see. However, you could definitely argue that it was one of the most overhyped songs that year, if not of any recent contest. I've never not minded this. It's a fairly slick pop track. Senate, of course, was there in 2011 with a ballad in Dusseldorf. Now she was coming back with this very radio-friendly type tune. And Flow Rider was involved. Now, I don't really know how he came to be involved on this song, but 3 things that you never thought would go together, Flow Rider, Eurovision, San Marino, that's exactly what we got in Rotterdam that year. The music video was very cool. The staging for this was quite interesting as well. She had this huge headpiece, and she looked quite regal throughout this performance, I would say. She had dancers with her, and then Flow Rider came out with his sunglasses on, if I remember correctly, bopping about towards the end of this song. This was a huge fan favourite, but ultimately it flopped, and I don't really know why. I didn't love the performance in either the semi-final or the final, I'll be honest with you, and I did feel as though the song was getting a lot of hype, and I didn't really understand that. But all things considered, this just making the final was absolutely a success, and there was a huge amount of attention surrounding little old San Marino that year because the song was quite impressive for them, in all honesty, and the fact that Flow Rider was involved was also a big talking point. In the final, though, 22nd place, 50 points. Really quite disappointing. I think San Marino had far higher hopes going into the 2021 competition of not just making the final, but maybe challenging for a top 10 finish. And when you consider that Say Na 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 finished in the top 10 with the public in 2019, how on earth did Adrenalina not finish anywhere near that high? It's very bizarre to me. Anyway, we move on. The song closing semi-final 2 did not qualify. This was Denmark, Ouvros på hinanden by Vier of Flamme. Practice on each other is the translation of this song. This is a male duo made up of Jesper and Laurits, both born in the 80s. They've been making music for a good few years. Their first album went to number 1. Their second album charted at number 31 in Denmark, so maybe they've faded from the public consciousness ever so slightly. But this song is a sort of throwback 1980s type dance pop number. I don't really know how else to describe it. The staging and the visuals were fairly cool, sort of like a neon disco, almost Tron-like. It was very interesting to look at, I suppose. Vocally, maybe it wasn't the strongest. At the national final, we actually had some orchestral accompaniment, which wasn't there at Eurovision, so maybe some of the power of this track, if power is the right word, was sucked out of this tune when it was there on stage in Rotterdam. I don't know. But I've always quite liked this, and this was the first Danish language entry by Denmark this century, so it was a long time coming. They were having a good time, the lead singer there in his pink jacket and the other guy off to one side, and yeah, it was clean. There wasn't really anything too cluttered or messy about this, and the public had this as a qualifier. It was the juries who scuppered Denmark's chances of progression, and they have not really improved over the past few years. They are still waiting for their first qualification to the final this decade. Anyway, Fire og Flamme finished 11th in semi-final 2 with 89 points. I've always liked it though. It feels very classic somehow. Moving on to 2022, I'm rambling, but we move. The opening song of semi-final 1 in Turin did not go through. This was Albania, Ronela Hayati with Secret. This finished 12th with 58 points. A lot of people were enjoying this one. I think a lot of Eurovision fans expected Albania to qualify for the final with some ease in 2022, and then we saw the live performance, and the EBU stepped in, and I can't quite remember exactly what they said, but they said something along the lines of, "Your rehearsal was a bit too saucy for us, you're showing a bit too much flesh, and the choreography is a bit too suggestive, you need to tone it down a little bit." They said something like that. And, I mean, if they said that for Albania in 2022, what are they going to say for Malta in 2025, if you see what I mean? Anyway, I didn't mind this song. I still don't mind this song. But why it was performed in this rather saucy and suggestive manner, I don't really know. It felt not amateurish, but it didn't feel ready enough for Eurovision. There was something really missing here to make it truly a wow moment and a really wonderful opener to proceedings. And when you consider that Latvia were on next, a song that I've also never really been that huge of a fan of, Eat Your Salad, you could say Latvia would have been a better opener, because that did feel more polished, even though the song is maybe far less serious. Anyway, Ronela, for the record, is 35, and she's been making music for many, many, many years, a big star in her homeland. It's a shame she didn't qualify, because the song was certainly fine enough, but I don't really know why they went down the rather saucy route. I really don't know. Anyway, it was very tame, to be honest. But why it was coming across in the way it was coming across, I don't really know. The song that closed semi-final 1 in Turin was Armenia. Now, when we had the running orders announced for the two semi-finals in 2022, a lot of people, including myself, were somewhat surprised Armenia had been put down to close semi-final 1. And then it made sense when we saw the rehearsals and the pictures that were released and what have you, because Rosalind with Snap had this huge rotating structure on stage, and inside this structure it was made to look like a bedroom with all of these bits of paper stuck to the walls and words and a bed. And then in the final third of this song she tore down some of these papers and we could see her. And to be honest, I'm not sure this would have worked brilliantly in the arena, because you couldn't really see Rosa very much at all for good portions of this performance. Nevertheless, it looked perfectly fine on television, and this song went on to become a huge hit well after Eurovision, doing so well in so many different countries and charting in America, which is seriously impressive. Why on earth it didn't resonate with people at the time, I don't really know. It's a very accessible, safe sort of song, and sometimes that's what people want. Sometimes that's what people gravitate towards. These songs that maybe aren't doing anything truly remarkable, but in this instance the staging is what makes people remember it. Anyway, this went through in 5th place with 187 points, and then in the final, Rosa finished 20th with 61 points. She is 24, and since releasing Snap, which charted at 21 in the UK, the top 10 in a whole bunch of other countries, and 67 in America, she's done a song with Duncan Lawrence, and she also supported Ed Sheeran on tour, so there you go, just like the Roop. But everything's been a little bit quiet for maybe a year or so now. So it would appear. Nope, we've already done that. Opening semi-final 2 in Turin were the Rasmus with Jezebel. This went through in 7th place with 162 points. This was Finland, of course. The Rasmus have been making music for several decades, about 30 years. They're from Helsinki. I was aware of them absolutely before they were involved in UMK. They had quite a lot of success, mainly in the early 2000s. Yes, they had a top 10 album here in the UK, Dead Letters, and they've released so many songs over the years. In the Shadows is an absolute classic. Falling, that's tremendous as well. Good music video. Anyway, getting back on track, Jezebel. This is a pretty solid effort, and it's co-written with Desmond Child, who is a hugely successful American songwriter, writing songs for, or collaborating with, Bon Jovi, Joan Jett, Ricky Martin, Cher, Kiss. I mean, this guy has written huge worldwide popular tracks, and then he comes along and here he is as a co-writer of Finland's entry at Eurovision 2022. It feels a bit bizarre, but there we are. This song, they had a yellow colour scheme, inflatable balls on stage. The lead singer Lauri was sort of topless by the end, but he was wearing this huge coat at times. And there were balloons, or there was this one balloon that he was holding, and then he let go of it, and it floated up to the ceiling. And it's a good old rock number. Not terribly raucous, not terribly aggressive, but it's a good old rock track. And I think some people were disappointed they won UMK. It all felt maybe a little bit predictable. I was happy with this choice. In the final, the result was a little bit disappointing. 21st place, 38 points. Closing semi-final 2 in Turin was the Czech Republic. We Are Domi with Lights Off. They are a Czech-Norwegian-British electro-pop band formed in Leeds in 2016. The lead singer is Dominika Hašková. They've released several songs since Eurovision, and they also did a song with Lake Malawi, I believe, or maybe that was just her who did a song with Lake Malawi. Yes, anyway, High Speed Kissing, there you are, that's a good song, 2022. I thought this was absolutely tremendous. Lights Off went through in 4th place with 227 points, and then in the final opened proceedings and was completely forgotten about. 22nd place, 38 points. Coincidentally, the same amount of points as the Rasmus with Jezebel. This performance I thought was really, really fantastic. They had all of this equipment on stage. That maybe looked a little bit odd, but really it was all about the flashing lights, and you had these sculptures that blew apart on the backdrop, and they kept using all of these wide shots. It just looked really, really amazing. The atmosphere in the arena must have been incredible for this one, especially because it opened the final. And this is a song that grew and grew on me as we edged ever closer to Eurovision in 2022, and I was really hoping it was going to do well, but alas, the points did not pour in. I've listened to this plenty of times over the years. It's a great number. It is definitely going in that electro-pop vein. What a shame the result maybe wasn't that fantastic in the end. Moving on to 2023. Bear with me as we now move on to the Liverpool competition. Opening semi-final 1 in Liverpool that year was Norway. Fabulous. This was Alessandra with Queen of Kings. She went through, and remember, this was the first year where there was no jury vote in the semi-finals. Ridiculous. 6th place, 102 points. In the final, 3rd with the public, and she finished 5th overall because the juries weren't so keen. 268 points. Absolutely fantastic. So many people loved this. Of course, Ulrika was there in the MGP final as well, and it seemed to be a straightforward battle between these two women, and in the end Alessandra won very comfortably, and I think it was the right choice in the end. Alessandra was there on stage in this sort of greenish warrior outfit, strutting down the runway right towards the end of this song. She had dancers with her. It was quite dark. Yes, there were flashing lights, but it was still quite dark. You'll know what I'm on about if you've seen the performance, of course. And I think the strength of this track is just how catchy it is. You know, it's got a really sort of infectious chorus, a good beat. Maybe it's playing it a bit safe, but as I said earlier, a lot of people don't mind that sometimes. This was fantastic. Alessandra, for the record, probably one of my favourite Eurovision artists this decade. She's 22, born in Italy, was on The Voice in Norway. She's released loads of songs since, including an EP, and she's fantastic. I can see her back in MGP within the next 2 or 3 years. I really can. Whether that's as part of a double act, whether that's as a songwriter, or whether that's her alone front and centre. I absolutely can see her coming back. Of course, she could even be in Sanremo, which I think would be really interesting as well. Yeah, wonderful. Narcissist, heavy, great songs. So yeah, Queen of Kings, an absolutely tremendous track, really likeable personality, and the result was, I think, deserved. The song that closed semi-final 1 was, of course, Karja, and Alessandra and Karja are good friends, and I think they've been hanging out very recently, based on their social media pages. This was, of course, Cha Cha Cha. Karja, who is 31, from Helsinki. Jere Boihonen is his actual name. He's released 2 albums, loads of singles, also did a song with Tommy Cash, representing Estonia this year, also done a song with Erika Wickman, representing Finland this year, also done a song with Joost Klein, represented the Netherlands last year, and this year has done a song with Bess. Is she going to represent Finland next year? That would be very interesting. Anyway, this song just went down like an absolute storm. The momentum was there after he won UMK by a mile, and it never faded. More and more people got on board with this. The big puffy green sleeves, the tattoo, the sort of black tight trousers, the dancers with the sort of manic grins on their faces, the box on stage that he popped out from, the flashing lights, and then it was all rainbow in the final third. Absolutely tremendous. I was there in the Eurovision Village on the pier head with my friend Peter for the grand final, and although we were right at the very back of the Eurovision Village that year, the atmosphere was just absolutely fantastic. And I always remember my friend Peter listening to this song, or listening to some of this song, and not really loving it that much. And then I played the song in full in his car, and I said, the song changes a little bit after the halfway point. And he thought, oh, does it now? And then he started loving it as much as I did, which is why you've got to give every song a good chance. Anyway, 177 points, first place for this in the semi-final, and then won the public vote by a mile in the final, but it wasn't enough because of those pesky juries. Karja finished second in the end with 526 points. Sort of very jarring to some people, I'm sure, very rowdy, so catchy. You know, not everybody speaks Finnish, but everybody can sing along with cha, cha, cha. That is just a universal phrase. And the energy was there. The sort of electricity was there. It was so evident. I do think this would have worked even better on a bigger stage. And he was there as part of the interval act last year. I think it was in the second semi-final. I can't quite remember. So that was fantastic. But on the whole, this was just so strong. so different from anything else that we've had this decade, indeed ever before in Eurovision, really. It stood out an absolute mile. The juries didn't hate it either, but he had to settle for the silver medal. Moving on to semi-final 2, the opening act was Denmark. This was Riley with Breaking My Heart. He is a curly-haired young man, well, 27, from the Faroe Islands, and I believe Sissal is from the Faroe Islands, which is really cool to see. This song was... how do I describe this? It was very safe pop. It's one of those songs, well, I felt at the time it was one of those songs that was probably going to be a big hit after Eurovision. You know, it was probably going to blow up on TikTok and that sort of thing. Maybe in the same vein that Snap by Rosalind did in 2022. However, I don't think that really happened. In the end, 14th place, 6 points for this. He was not, with all due respect, he was not the strongest vocalist. The staging was okay. He had this sort of set of walls on stage, and there was this moment when he sort of scribbled on the camera or something like that at the start. I haven't seen this performance for a while, and he was in this pink outfit. It was all okay, but it just wasn't quite striking enough. It wasn't memorable enough. It wasn't leaving much of an impact. However, 6 points is really quite disappointing, and he did not make the final, obviously. The song that closed the semi-final, the second semi-final of 2023, was Australia. This was fantastic. Voyager with Promise. Now, Voyager were the runners-up in the Australian selection before they did Eurovision. They've toured all over the place, released many, many albums, and this was absolutely fantastic on stage. They're from Perth. They're described as a progressive metal and power metal group. This won semi-final 2 with 149 points. There was a car on stage, and this was a mixture of metal, rock, sort of glam rock elements all fused together, and it had that sort of you know, really easy to go along with hook, and the crowd seemed to love it as well. Loads of flashing lights, the whole shebang, bit of pyro towards the end. I don't know why I keep looking over there. This was just really, really tremendous. And unfortunately, in the final, I don't know why, but the public weren't really on board with this at all. If we take a look, Australia were 20th with the public with 21 points, and 6th in the jury vote with 130 points, so finished in 9th place, still not bad overall, with 151 points. This was just really good, and maybe it became a little bit too over the top towards the end. Maybe first-time listeners might have thought that, but this is a song that I've listened to numerous times since Liverpool 2023. It's a great, good old rock number. It's just a shame that the public weren't more on board with it, as was the case with Czechia in 2022, and indeed a few other songs that I've spoken about already. Moving on to last year, we're getting there, bear with me. The song that opened semi-final 1 in Malmö nearly a year ago was Cyprus. This was Cilia Capsis with Liar. This was a pretty bog-standard pop song, and how many times have I said it now? Sometimes people just want something that feels fairly basic. There's really nothing truly original about this song whatsoever. The performance was fine. She was there in this white crop top, white jacket, white trousers, dancers with her, and they whipped their tops off for some inexplicable reason towards the end of this song, just for the hell of it. And I think there was there some pyro? I can't quite remember. Anyway, this went through in 6th place with 67 points, and Cyprus were a touch-and-go qualifier for a lot of people last year. But I've said it before, Cyprus have a habit of doing this, going through more comfortably than we expect. It could well happen again this year with Theo Evan. More on him in a minute, because he's closing semi-final 1 this year. Anyway, in the final, Cyprus finished in 15th place with 78 points. Not too bad. I always liked this song, but I absolutely recognise that it's fairly basic. Cilia Capsis, for the record, is still only 18, from Sydney, And I have to say, she performed this well, and she sounded pretty good, and she looked great, and she should be very proud of her performance. But the song, I feel as though with Eurovision fans last year, nobody had much of a strong opinion on this one. Nobody loved this track, and I don't think many people really hated this track. So in the end, I think the result was maybe as expected. I don't know. Closing semi-final one last year was Luxembourg, returning after many, many years away. This was Tally with Fighter, and this went through in 5th place with 117 points. And then in the final, Tally, who was wearing this sort of purplish outfit, she had dancers on stage, and there was this box, and there was that sort of hologram effect on screen at one point as well. Was it a tiger, a leopard? Can't quite remember. Flames going up around the stage as well at certain points. Again, like with Cyprus's entry, maybe not doing anything truly incredible, and yet in the final, Luxembourg finished 13th with 103 points, doing far better in the jury half of the results than the public half of the results, it must be said. But this has obviously got me thinking, and maybe you thinking as well, if Luxembourg can finish 13th last year with that song, will they do as well, if not better, this year with what some people might say is arguably a stronger effort? I don't know. I think I've covered all bases with that one. Tally, for the record, is 24, from Jerusalem, born to an Israeli mother and a Peruvian Jewish father. She speaks Hebrew, Spanish, French, English, and is able to communicate in German and understand Luxembourgish. She has also appeared in various theatre productions. Yeah, I don't mind her at all. I haven't heard any of her other music, really, I don't think. But yeah, this song was okay. Again, I don't think many people had a really strong positive reaction to this one, and I don't think a lot of people really loathed this song either. 13th place, not too bad. Semi-final 2 was opened by Malta. This was Sarah Bonici with Loop, a beautiful woman. It was revamped. Didn't mind the original version. Didn't mind the revamped version either. This was last in semi-final 2. Disgraceful, with 13 measly points. Typical, yet again, of how the public, that plane is flying very low outside, don't know if you can hear that. This is typical with Malta over the past few years. For some reason, the public just usually aren't on board with Malta's entries, and I don't really know why. Sarah is 26, has tried to represent Malta at Junior Eurovision in the past, and also was there in 2022 in the Maltese selection for the adult competition, but I don't really remember that at all. Anyway, she has released a few other songs since Eurovision. This was good, fairly catchy. We had green lighting, and then it was more purpley pink. She had dancers, and there was pyro, and there was quite impressive choreography, and she sounded pretty good, and there was this big diva note in the final third. She deserved better than last place, no doubt about it. Pretty ordinary pop song, but it was executed fairly well. And then closing semi-final 2, of course, was Joost Klein with Europapa. And what an absolute shite show this was last year, because, of course, he ended up being disqualified because of this incident backstage, and I still don't really know for sure what happened. But what happened did happen, and he was excluded from the final. This song was a huge hit. It went viral. It's quirky, bizarre, but not in a negative way. Europapa is described as a rave, gabber, happy hardcore number. He co-wrote it himself. This song received a lot of praise in his homeland and from other Eurovision journalists as well. Steen is in the music video, which I only realised well after the music video came out. Yes, I'm just reading what it says on here. The song itself features an orphan child wanting to tell his story, which was inspired by Klein's upbringing. And yeah, it's a very personal song for Joost, absolutely, including, that moment right at the end, the message to his parents, and in the music video, I think you have that burning house. So it feels very fun and light-hearted somehow, but then at the end, it's far more tender. It's a real juxtaposition. Anyway, he went through from semi-final 2 in second place with 182 points. Now, we do know that had this been in the final, I think he would have finished 14th or something in the jury vote. I can't quite remember. Anyway, this did very well in Belgium, did very well in Finland, Greece, Iceland, Latvia, Lithuania, even New Zealand it did very well. And indeed in the UK, where it charted at number 37. So even though it wasn't in the final, it was a big, big commercial hit. And I know that Joost Klein, a little bit of a controversial figure these days, perhaps, based on a few things that I've read about him somewhat recently, but he's released loads of albums, won loads of awards, he's doing quite well for himself. That leaves this year, and I'm rambling so badly now, opening semi-final one. I will be brief because I've spoken about these songs plenty of times when I've covered this year's lineup. Semi-final one will be opened by Vibe for Iceland with Roa. Fantastic, this song is in Icelandic. It's a very jaunty, sort of sea shanty type number. The two brothers having a blast in their silver outfits. The song references Iceland's regular Eurovision commentator, who also pops up in the music video, which is quite nice to see. You've also got a Faroe Islands flag and a Greenland flag in the music video. That's fantastic to see as well. This is completely accessible, harmless fun, but still it might not go through. Closing semi-final one next month will be Theo Evan for Cyprus with Shush. This is quite a loud, quite energetic number. There's been comparisons between this and the Belgian entry. I've said it before, I'll say it again. I think the Belgian entry this year is a little bit more cohesive and polished somehow. Shush is another one of those songs, a bit like Cyprus last year perhaps, where I haven't seen too many people really love this one, and I haven't seen too many people really hate this one. It's very middle of the road. I only can assume they're last in the running order for semi-final one this year because the staging is going to be quite impressive. Because I think most people expected San Marino or Belgium or even Norway to close that first semi-final, but no, it's going to be Cyprus instead. I do expect Cyprus to go through. Iceland, I'm not too sure about just yet. As for semi-final 2, Australia will open it. This is Gojo with Milkshake Man. His real name is Marty, for the record. He's 29. And this song, it's very playful, very tongue-in-cheek, very suggestive, maybe a little bit creepy. You could definitely make that case. But I think this is going to go down an absolute storm live in Basel. It's quite fun. It's enjoyable for what it is. Yes, it's veering into somewhat silly territory, but I think this is looking like a good bet to go through next month. And as for closing semi-final 2, fantastic to see this. It's Erika Wickman with Ik Komme. I've said it before, I'll say it again. She absolutely owned the UMK performance, and she won that national final fairly comfortably. She was in this black outfit, didn't need anybody else on stage. There was the big microphone, the sparks, the flashing lights. She was just in control of everything, owning that performance, commanding that stage. That's what you've got to do at Eurovision. And to me, that UMK performance was Eurovision ready. She could keep everything the same and it would still be fantastic. I really don't think there needs to be many adjustments whatsoever. I'm hoping that they don't change much. Erika Wickman, for the record, was born on February the 20th, 1993. So she is slightly younger than myself. It's quite interesting because Axel from Kai for Sweden was born on the exact same day as me in the exact same year, and Sweden are, at this moment in time, my personal winners of this year's competition. Finland's my number 2 at this moment in time, and it just so happens that Erika for Finland was born in the same month in the same year as me as well, which is quite something. Anyway, I'm rambling so badly now. Ik Komme is fantastic. It's not too suggestive in the way that you could say Australia's song is or Malta's song is. I don't think we're going to get really, really sort of sexual type choreography. Everything about this is already working. It's already ready to go, in my opinion. Vocally, it's pretty solid as well. And I feel as though maybe Finland have slipped in the betting odds ever so slightly over the past few weeks, but is this a serious contender to win? I don't know. It depends how the juries view it, of course. Anyway, I haven't really been following anything here, so I will have to think off camera about my favourite opener and closer over the past few years. But feel free to let me know your thoughts on the songs that I've discussed. And this video has been about 20 minutes longer than I wanted it to be, but never mind. Anyway, until next time, take care of yourselves, stay safe, and I'll be back soon with more content. Bye for now.